I'm not a gambler, but if I had to bet everything, I would bet that Apple Vision Pro will flop. An interesting Wired article.
It's a very naive take to have, right? And it's always safe to bet against the technology.
Hi, in this video we'll be able to listen to some of the guests which we invite to our weekly Mr. Metaverse discussion.
I just released something on my newsletter earlier this week talking about how Apple is going to make augmented reality and virtual reality experiences ubiquitous. So if you're interested in reading more about that or learning more, it's pinned at the top of my profile. I invite you to check it out. But what to talk about here is, yeah, you kind of said it best in that this is a revolutionary moment for spatial computing, for AR, and for VR because it's proven this certain level of legitimacy for hardware form factor. So virtual reality has been worked on over a long period of time. Nearly 60 years, developers have been exploring in virtual reality use cases, and really in the last decade, I would say since Palmer Luckey came about, and launched the Rift, that brought us into the modern era. And then now having Meta's launch and their whole rebrand, and then the launch of the Quest 2 catalyzed this new segment to have continued growth, especially within gaming verticals, because now you're at an interesting price point where you can get in. It's pretty user friendly, relatively speaking. And so all these were driving users, but we haven't had this cataclysmic event that brings us to the next stage of adoption. But the ethos of Apple coming around and signaling with their first big product launch in over a decade and saying, hey, we believe in this spatial reality, we believe in personal computing, we believe in head mounted displays is massive for the entire industry. And I'm really excited for what they're doing so far. And one tactic that they approached through WWDC that was a little bit different than what we saw with a lot of other headsets is they didn't focus on all the traditional verticals that we see, which are like a lot of simulation based experiences and a lot of gaming based experiences. Instead, it was all about interoperability with their existing ecosystem. Because for the longest time, we've had this issue of chicken and the egg within mixed reality and VR, where you want to have social experiences, but in order to have them, you need to have a virtual reality headset. And as well, it's an entirely different ballpark switching from operating your phone to then operating a headset. So to be able to have this fluid transition where you're able to come in, not be thrusted immediately into everything 3D, but bring in your 2D experiences, interoperability with the rest of your Apple software ecosystem, and the ability to contact and connect with everybody outside of the headset, I think is huge. And this is the first time where I believe that general consumers are now seeing virtual reality for themselves, where they don't have this nihilistic or doomer vision of a Ready Player One metaverse, but they understand that wow, we can really use this technology to drive a deeper level of immersion and improve the tech we're already using and improve the quality of our lives. So uh, even though the headset is expensive, and I don't think it's going to be the highest selling headset, I still believe that the Quest will outsell it purely based on the price point. What this does is it signals to developers that this is an industry worth building in, and it's going to drive more adoption and more entrepreneurs in this space, and signals to consumers that this is actually something worth exploring and something worth purchasing in the future.
I'm ready for it. I say bring them on. Let's bring on the masses.
I would say positive, more on the positive side, yeah.
Yeah, I do have some negative too. So once you get to that point, I'll bring that part up. But for the positive, I will stick to what I think. As I mentioned earlier, I don't like anything that blocks my senses in public spaces, as I want to be aware. So what Apple has does, they made it see-through, which I think is great because now I can be aware of the real world while I'm in the digital world, and it doesn't feel like I'm cutting myself off. Even if you had it to where you could still see your senses, but you have like a blinder that prevents you from like looking out physically, it would still not work. It has to be see through because people do not like to block off anything, um, their vision. So that is positive. I yeah. So I'll just leave it at that.
Two reasons, actually. First one, I mean, obviously the tech that is involved into this headset is insane. So it's really advanced when it comes to tech. The second one, which is more, I think, on the just the ecosystem of XR and immersive technologies is, I think they're fixing the divide that we're seeing with headsets. So we have headsets that come out as enterprise friendly, as enterprise, facing. We have headsets that come out for consumers only. And I think with Apple, I firmly believe with their products, they kind of, especially, and this is something that JP also mentioned, is the interoperability. We see, I think we're going to see where it's going to be both enterprise friendly, so developers will find it easy to push apps and support, and also for consumers, they always simplify things. So that's also one positive side. As for the cost, I mean, if you look at the HoloLens, it was also 3,500 within that range. So it's not also that outside of the range of XR technology.
All right. Charles, what's your take? We just crossed 40 subscribers mark yesterday. If you like what you're listening right now, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It takes a second for you to do it. It costs nothing, and it means a world to us. It shows us that we are moving in the right direction and we produce the right content. So thank you. Enjoy.
I have to agree. It's definitely the easiest. They made it so simple, and that's one of the things that I like about the Apple products. Is when you pull out your Apple phone, you buy a new Apple phone. The moment you open the box, it's got all the information from your old phone already there. It's already connected. And what they've done with this headset that other headsets haven't done yet is having everything already connected. So for that consumer, that everyday user, they don't have to develop anything. They don't have to do anything. They can put it on and it's already connected to everything they already use, right? And then for the developer side, if you want to take it to another extreme, you want to build on it, you want to do bigger things, it is possible to do that with as well. So I'm definitely that's for me, that's the biggest upside is the masses, right? The everyday users, especially once these things they come out with the lighter version. That's what I love about it the most is the everyday user is now going to have access to these things and just be connected automatically.
I see, makes sense. All right, and the question to the audience before I move to the negative sides of things. Question to the audience. So thumbs up if you believe that it's a positive thing. Like if you have positive attitude to the Apple Vision, and if you don't have a positive vision, don't react. All right, so almost everybody has a negative. All right, interesting. All right, we have half there. Yeah, I know what I did there.
I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up.
Yeah,
People are hopping on.
I know what I did there. It's a test it on those who are not around the computer. All right, so half of the people have positive, half either not around or have negative. But then let's move to the negative side. So we have 50-50, not decided, right? So the negative part, there's an interesting Wired article, and it starts this way. I'm not a gambler, but if I had to bet everything, I would bet that Apple Vision Pro will flop. So it has some explanation why. So one of the most obvious one, the price. Then that is just for the diehards and it's too expensive. Then another reasoning was that it just basically there's other companies that's failed in the industry. Therefore, Apple is doomed to fail. I don't say I agree with any of the statements, but it's an interesting article, I would say, and I'd highly recommend reading through it. You can see on the I'll put the link on the YouTube, or you can just Google it. It's Wired. Apple Vision Pro is in the future, and then it goes into depth in explaining what's wrong with that it's an antisocial device, and that it's for the average person it won't be unreasonable to buy, and then it ends up with the best ending I would have expected from this article. Basically, that was I would say obvious ending. So it refers that Apple is wrong because FTX was wrong, because NFT was failed, because crypto failed, and then because Meta also failed with their metaverse. So big tech is basically right to understand.
That's terrible, right? I mean, it's a very naive take to have, right? And it's always safe to bet against the technology in the public sphere, right? Because the consequences of you being wrong aren't nearly as catastrophic, right? And even if it's not intellectually honest, you're able to work under the guise that it was with that, right? But that doesn't really encapsulate a lot of of the true knowledge and what we've seen come to light and what we've seen be developed. You know, that reminds me of a lot of the hypocrisy is well, and a lot of the criticism that we saw of the original iPhone. Oh, you know, who's getting rid of a keyboard? Who wants to use a touchscreen? That's terrible, right? Using something like that, and then even using countermeasures of something like FTX, which is not related at all. I
Yeah.
mean, at all
when
to the
when
headset.
when I
Right.
read the article, the ending, when I was reading the ending, like FTX failed, it was the first part, and NFT failed, and I'm like, how this is related? And then it's like crypto failed. I'm like, all right, metaverse with meta failed, so all big tech has to understand that everything they're trying to do is will fail, and I'm like, that's a perfect summary.
And even though Meta has had some struggles, they've been far from failing, right? There are there are hundreds to thousands of apps that are generating millions of dollars in revenue on the Quest store, right? The Quest 3 is going to be more successful than the Quest 2. The Quest 2 sold millions of units, right? Even though these are not at the numbers we're seeing with traditional that we're seeing at traditional gaming consoles or traditional computing devices, we are seeing consistent growth over a consistent period, right? And whenever I see a take like that compares it to crypto related because you can somehow tie in this ethereal thought of the metaverse, I just have to assume that an article like that is written purely for rage clicks.
Yeah, probably. But it was it 100% is a pure clickbait, and I have a couple negative things I had in mind, but I will share that in the end. Charles, what's your take on this article, and do you have any negative things you would like to share on the Apple Vision, which maybe wasn't covered in the article, but which is legit negative takes? Charles.
I love the article. I like that they used as many keywords and search words as they could to get in, to get views and to get reads. I mean, from the crypto to the Apple, I mean, and whoever wrote it, like they knew what they were doing, and so as an article, it's great. It gets people's attention, I mean, I don't know how many people probably it's wired, right? So lots of people read it. Then they went and did some more research. Maybe they came across an article from JP or something somewhere because of that article, and they found out that hey, it's not so bad. It is going to be better in the end. But let's go deeper. As far as the negatives on Apple, there are negatives. Okay, I mean honestly, I'm an Android user, so just to throw that out there, I've got my own angst against Apple's. The ease of use is one of them. As much as I love it,
Yeah,
I
you
hate it.
should have
Right? I
said
want to
that when I was
develop more.
inviting you.
I'm the only one here, huh? So I'm all by
No,
myself.
no, Charles, you have great credence to that point there, right? So I was an Android user for the longest time. I grew up on Android because I liked the open environment to be able to do things, right? Like I would download N64 APK files so I could play Super Mario 64 on my phone. Like, oh, you can't do that on an iPhone, right? And like really get deep in the nitty gritty on the software. But then I realized, wow, I really hated the feeling of being disconnected from everybody else and not like being the green text in the text group, right? The appeal of iMessage and interoperability between everything seemed so appealing. And the reality is that's what most consumers want, right? And Android's ecosystem still exists for a lot of devs, and there are some people that prefer it on the consumer side, but I think the vast majority of people really like the way Apple's software interoperability and ease of use works.
Yeah, I would say if Apple was like twice cheaper, like three times cheaper, that they will have a way bigger share of the market. It's just the price range also has a big impact, I would say. But all right, Charles, what else? Before I make a joke on the Android part, what's else your take
Well,
on?
no, now I feel like I need to be quiet a little bit and just sit back and learn and just but no, it's other than that, I really I'm glad that Apple's coming to the market. And now again, personally, like there are glasses makers that I am invested in that I'm ready for. Okay, so when it comes to actual hardware, like I've got eyes on other people that I'm looking at, and those are the ones that I'm going to be wearing.
I see. All right, Timothy, you said you had negative thoughts, so share them.
Yeah, so I have two really negative views. That is the fact that the price point is way too high. Um, I know me, I don't have 3,500 USD to spend on this headset. Um, and I also live in Canada, so our money's worth not worth as much. So that also plays into the price point. Um, yeah, and then my other negative thought is that, as I mentioned, for a family device, Apple is not a family device because it's when you put it on your head, you're creating separation between you and your family. All right, like if you have a TV on the wall, you can cuddle your family, you can hold your family, but with you can put your head next to each other. But with the headset on, you're putting that barrier right in front of you, and that is disconnecting you from your family. However, where I do like about Apple headset is that it's good for work device. It's good for sitting in front of a laptop and using it on like for spatial computing. It's good for flights. Like imagine like being able to put a headset on and going to like underwater, and then all of a sudden you're in an ocean while you're flying. You could do it for that. Car rides, Uber, like being in the back of an Uber, going to the metaverse, being in Chicago in the metaverse at the same time you're in Chicago in the real world. Like there's a lot of potential with headsets, and I do think headsets is a great option for immersive technology, but I also think there's going to be other immersive technology options involved as well.
I see. All right, Hisham.
I'd just like to add one more negative as well. So they advertised it as being, used for movies, watching movies, etc. But with the battery life of only 2 hours, I don't think that's gonna be really. You get what I mean? Like the movie you're gonna watch is
It's
probably
time to
gonna be
make
more than
movies
2
under
hours.
2 hours. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one thing as well I noticed on the negative side.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree, and that's one of the points I had in my mind. It was also about the movies, but more about like mix of movies and family. So like because they advertise this like kind of family, and also that it's watch movie and stuff. I mean, yes, if you're like only you, like it can be better to get a headset and it's cheaper rather than to buy a TV and all the setup, everything, especially if you like high-end stuff, then it's even price efficient. But then if you just add one more person to the equation and you have to buy 2 headsets, then suddenly the price efficiency doesn't work anymore. And if you add kids as well, you wouldn't buy a headset for kids, right? I mean, you can, but I'm not sure how it's like. When I was a kid, I was told not to watch TV too long and not to stay closer to TV. Now we are strapping TVs on kids' heads. Not sure about that. To be fair, even the resolution is great and they claim that it's great, I'm not sure what's the long-term consequences for kids specifically, because it's younger organism, it's developing, so how their eyes will react to staying too long. I mean, I personally had maybe 2 hours of watch time in first 10 or 12 years of my life in total for any computer TV related. I have problems with my eyes, so I wasn't allowed to watch anything. So from that, I understand that that helped me. Having no influence on digital on my eyes helped me cure my eyesight, and now I'm fully healthy with that. So I'm not sure about how kids will experience that. But if you're not allowed to give headsets to kids, then you put headset on your head, right? And like you as a parent, and then the kids see you this way, so it's create this kind of barrier, like the kids want to experience it as well, and you basically say no. So, and also you're kind of distancing, as Timothy said, from the family. So yeah, it's kind of tricky product, and it's really not, I'm personally not exactly sure what exactly target market of that is. Thank you to the watching to the end. If you like more exclusive content, you like the memes, or you'd like to learn through the text, consider subscribing to our newsletter. Links in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and probably you might like this video.